the Spurs Big Three montage was the def when I was like, all right, I'm on. Yeah, I'm here. Cause think about it, we this at ESPN. There's people who come from Duke, Syracuse, Arizona, big schools, and I'm this kid from New Orleans, Northwestern State University of Louisiana. So I got my doubts. Like, am I really good enough? So I remember cutting that, and I cut that montage for. It was just for NBA tonight. It was for
Hmm.
NBA Countdown at first. So
Okay.
for NBA Countdown, it was for the finals, and I worked on this thing religiously. I had to make it my best. And the first piece of encouragement came from the resident Spurs fan,
Marcus.
Garcia. Yep, Marcus Garcia. And he was like, man, and you know how he is for the Spurs.
Hmm.
And he was like, I love that montage. He was like, he said, not only do I love your selection, it's the music that you chose. It was the jazz thing. He was like, if you'd have put any other music other than something slow like that, I wouldn't have been a fan of it because that's not how they play.
2013, I was able to achieve something I had been chasing for years, and that is I landed a job at ESPN. Now, the four letter was a great company to work for, ups and downs, but one of the things that happened, the best thing that happened, is I was able to build relationships with friends that I still have to this day. On today's episode, I bring on one of my good friends, one of my close friends, DeVry Smothers. DeVry has done so many things, including operating a teleprompter, producing highlights for SportsCenter, producing content for NBA Tonight, the NBA Finals, and now he works in the SEC network. So he's going to talk about his career, and we take a trip down memory lane. So, something you'll enjoy. Hear some of these great stories. But also, he has his own podcast called Everything Real, where he'll discuss sports, technology, movies, and even marriage. So, ladies and gentlemen, sit back. Here's my interview with DeVry Smothers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, on this episode of Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings, I'm bringing to you one of my closest friends from the four letter where I used to work. Man, the one person when we played basketball on the courts who could give me the pass the right way. And for some reason, every time he passed the ball, my shots would go in. I'm not no baller, but I always say he was the Magic Johnson, the Russell Westbrook of the team. That is the one and only DeVry Smothers. What's up, bro? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I like that intro. I'm hyped now. I'm ready to put the balling shoes back on. But nah, man, on the court, I saw everything. So if you was open by the crease, I'm fine. It don't matter. I'm throwing that thing 3/4 court. If you open, I'm dishing it. I don't care. Like I always dribble with my head up so I can see the whole court. So yeah, man.
Yes.
The vision, the goggles was there. The goggles was there.
Yeah, man. We won the championship, that first league. Unfortunately, we was like
First,
the
yep.
Pistons, and we couldn't get that second or third. And we would get right there, undefeated season, and then for some reason,
we turned into the Buffalo Bills, but we got one.
yeah, we was the
We
Braves.
kept
We was the Atlanta
yeah
Braves.
we kept climbing and climbing, and after that first one, I was like, bro, this weird stuff would happen. I don't know, man. Oh
I don't
man.
know if you remember the first time we met was I was probably there for like my second or third week, and they had told me no, I was had to have been third or fourth because I was already
Mm-hmm.
in my apartment, and they said, man, come on up to campus. And this is when they had the basketball hoop outside
Right.
and
Yep.
Cass was
Yep.
playing at night. And I remember I was just messing up big time. I was like, man, this dude probably gonna be like, man, where y'all get this ball from?
Nah,
But you
man. Like the courts, I really hate that they took that away. Like we used to do midnight run, like on those courts, and like before, it was dying down when I got there, but like people used to say, yeah, we used to. I guess tweet. They would tweet about midnight run, and like it was like this little niche thing. So I'm just upset they took that off campus, man. That was horrible. I don't know why they did that.
yeah, I don't
They did that. they moved it for a cafeteria. Like they took a basketball court and hey, no, we're adding more to the cafeteria. Man,
I know, man. And it was a good spot, especially for when celebrities would come because you could do cool
yes,
stuff, you
it was
know.
part of the car wash. Like whether it didn't matter what sport or what if it was an athlete, it didn't matter what they did. Like if it was a basketball player, it would leave the goals out there. If it was a soccer player, they would put nets like underneath the goal. Like it was dope to have that. Like I don't
Hmm.
know for a cafeteria. I guess
Right.
that's I guess that's American. They just took a basketball court. Hey, we need food, and just took it out.
But yeah, let's get into it, man. So you went to Northwestern State, correct? In down in
Yeah,
Louisiana, where you from.
yeah.
When did you decide that you wanted to be in media, in the media business?
I decided I wanted to be in the media business since high school. So we had a high school. It was called the Signature Schools of Louisiana of New Orleans, and you can go literally go to high school, and you could pick like what you think you would want to be in life. So if you wanted to be in media, we had like you would do obviously the normal subject, but you also had like a journalism class where you can do newscasts and stuff like that. So from I think like eighth grade, I knew it was some. I had to find something to do with running my mouth. So I think that was it. So like I picked that rolling into high school. I felt like I didn't want to do anything outside of run my mouth and talk about sports. So it was going to be this avenue. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but that's what I chose from a young buck.
Now I know, excuse me, our good brother Corey Taylor.
Yeah.
He always talks about, he played high school football, and for people who don't know, he shut down Mike Wallace in high school. Did you and Corey go to high school together, or y'all met in
No, we did
college?
not. And I want to see the footage. I've never heard him say. I've never heard him tell me he shut down Mike Watt. I've never heard him
Oh,
say
for real?
to
So it was
me
a.
he. I don't know if I've never heard him say this. I've never heard him say he shut down Mike Wallace. I
or,
don't know.
or maybe I used the word shut down in a wrong sense. Like I think he said he got one, but I do know he said he got Wallace. I believe it was Wallace. What happened when I first started, and I was in sales
Uh-huh.
quality control. Corey was on event, and
Right.
we had like one. You know how they do, get to know each other, employees.
Yeah.
And it was like write a fun fact, and that was like his fun fact. Like I vividly remember, he said like he played against, he lined up against Mike Wallace. I put it like that. He lined up against him, but I do think
I
he
wanna.
got leverage on
I wanna see that.
him.
Not. I give it. He's fast. I'm gonna get.
Mhm.
He is fast, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's Mike Wallace, bro.
He
That's
said,
Mike.
yeah, he said,
If
Wallace did get him, Wallace got him, but I mean, look, down in Louisiana, man, y'all got some ballers. Michael Smith sacked Eli
we,
Manning.
yeah. Oh man.
But
Oh man. I mean,
did
I
you?
guess you could win one rep. Yeah,
Yeah.
dog has his day. I guess. Yeah. All right. I'm
Now,
gonna
did
talk
you?
to him about that though. I gotta call him. I'm calling him about that. I swear, I'm gonna call him about that.
Did you play high school sports?
The only I'll run it down like this. I played two, uh, baseball and basketball. Um, both were short-lived careers. So, like I said, with the signature schools in New Orleans, we started a baseball team like my sophomore year, and I was outfielder slash pitcher. So by me, like outfielder slash pitcher, like we would do our practices at school, and since we're in a confined space, I could like see the ball, I can track it down, all that. So I look like an all star out there. So we find I think we have like our first game like outside. I don't know what it was. I could not find the baseball in the outfield. Like I was like, I know he hit it. I just don't know where it's at. And the ball would be like right in front of me. So they took me from outfield. They're like, all right, we're just gonna put you on the mound. And I was nice at the mound, but this was a school that was newly starting out.
Okay.
So, the sports, it was more like exhibitions and stuff like that. So that was sophomore year, and then like Hurricane Katrina hit, and then my senior year I tried at McMahon, and I just wasn't the same person that I was like 2 years before that. I was just wasn't the same player. So that was short lived. My basketball career was short lived. I made the team at that small school I told you about, but it, it was just a small school. I guess we never took it seriously. But yeah, I remember thinking like I tried out for that team in high school, and I was like, I didn't make the team. And like my name was like the first one on there.
Oh
And
wow.
I was like, wait, what? It was like I was like the first name on it. Like there are people who were definitely better than me. I don't know if my coaches was doing that to make fun. I don't know if they were having fun, but they put me. I never asked them that. My name was the first one on the list because I
Hmm.
went to the list and I went down and I was like, dang, I didn't make it. And I looked up like one. I was like, what? I felt like first round draft pick. I was like number one. So yeah, it was short lived, but those were my two sports, baseball and basketball. I wanted to play football, but moms wasn't having it. In every position they wanted to play, they wanted me to do something other than running back. So I would always say, nah, I'm not playing. If it's not running back, I'm not doing it. So
So when did you
that was
start?
my
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, that was my athletic career.
Oh, cool. So you already, so now you already know you got 100% focus on journalism and
Yeah,
production.
yeah.
And did you get a chance to do any like cool stories while you were in high school?
I did not get a chance to do any. I didn't get a chance to do any cool things in high school. Like I said, the school was just trying to get its bearings and they trying to figure out their identity.
Hmm.
And we really didn't have like equipment took forever to get to us. And then the storm hit, and I never got to do anything until I got into college. And
Okay.
we would our professors would send us on beat reports around this small town to find stories for our class. I don't think I don't think I did any cool things. I'd be like, yeah, that's what I did. Like such and such. I interviewed the top player in Louisiana. So nothing like that though. Nothing, nothing,
Yeah.
nothing outstanding. I guess I could say.
So now how did the ESPN opportunity come about for you?
Oof. So so the ESPN opportunity, and that's something I'm gonna talk about in my episode one of my podcast on everything real. I'm glad you asked me that. So the opportunity came to me by way of like Corey Taylor by way of referral. So I remember graduating from college, and we didn't get jobs in our field, so we had to work at this like warehouse. And one day Corey was like, "Hey, NABJ is in town because we signed up in college." He was like, "NABJ is having a convention in town. Let's go." And I was like, "Nah, I gotta work." And I was like, and thinking at the time in the back of my mind, I was like, "Why didn't I go with him?"
Hmm.
So I was like, "Nah, I gotta work." And now, mind you, this warehouse job, I didn't go to school for this, and I was temporary, so they
And
like
this
could have let me go at any time.
and this
And I was just being,
2012, right?
yeah, this is 2012. I'm just being loyal to them for like, but no, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm being loyal to them. So Corey goes and he meets the head of the CAP program at the Four Letters, and she really likes Corey. He had I guess he sold himself really well. Like he really wanted the opportunity because that's all we talked about in college. So fast forward, Corey gets the job and he goes out to Connecticut. I'm still at the warehouse, but I'm trying to go to grad school for sports administration just to try to find something to better myself. And I'm just kicking myself like, why did you go with him? You both it. But you know, like I said, that's a true friend. He's a brother. Like to me, he's a brother, and he's always had my back from day one. And like he referred me to like, hey, do you know anybody who's interested? And he put my name there. And from there, it went like clockwork. They called me. I did a phone interview. They flew me out. and I did an in-person interview, and like a month and a half later, I think it was because I had to wait like 6 months. So 2012, obviously May. So the next year, when they were doing the next round of hires, I got in. July 29th, 2013 was my official hire date, and that's how I got in.
Oh wow. So yeah, so mine was September 9th. Well, that was my
Okay,
official start date,
right.
2013. And I remember, you were saying that you had kind of just got there. And when when you how like how nervous were you during that interview process? Like, did you stay up all night just trying to study as much Sports Center?
So this is what I vividly remember the sort of phone interview. I was like, they called me randomly. I was going to the bank to deposit a check, and they called me randomly. And I'm like, pick up the phone. It's like, hey, yeah, it's so and so with ESPN. And I'm like, right now you gonna call me? Like, I'm like out. So I did my phone interview literally like outside, like walking around, like on the street. And I'm pretty sure there was somebody like, what is this dude doing? I'm pacing back and forth, answering sports questions because they would ask you like, hey, what's a suicide squeeze? Like, all kind, who won the 2012 World Series? Like all those things. Like they would ask you all that stuff, and I'm answering all this on the phone. And I was nervous as heck. Like I'm like, oh man, did I get that right? So I must have got majority of the questions right, of course. But I do that. I think the in-person interview, I got like cocky. I was like, yeah. After I was done, I was like, yeah, I'm finished. I know I killed it. But when I got
Uh-huh.
back home, and she was like, oh yeah, you should get a call from us in 2 weeks. No phone call. I was like, I probably bombed this thing. Like they probably, oh, cause they even, I'll never forget. They put me in the room, the basement of downstairs screening, old screening is what they used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
They brought me down there to do a shot sheet,
Yep.
like how they do the highlights. So
Was yours
this
with
is the fun.
Tom?
Yes, I was with Tom. So this is the fun. This is the crazy thing. What is so? Yeah, you got me.
You
Yeah,
good? This is
okay.
just gonna be
Yeah,
audio, so you good.
okay, okay. So so like I said, so I'm downstairs with Tom, and I'm like I'm doing the whole thing. So I'm going over the highlight. He's showing us the highlight. I'm writing out the highlight. Now in EMPS, if you do certain things, it'll erase. Like if you don't know how to navigate through that shot sheet, erase. So
Mm-hmm.
I had my thing written down, and I like hit one button. So when I went to do when I was finally finished with the shot sheet, Brian, I had 2 lines
Oh.
on the shot sheet. So like, and even still though, I felt like I had killed the interview, and like I was really like I really was cocky, like, oh, I got it. And like I said, 2 hours later, like 2 weeks, they said, we'll contact you 2 weeks later. And I got no phone call. Like, and also I'm accepted into grad school at this point. So I'm like, all right, I'm calling. So I called one week, leave a voicemail. Like, I'm talking about, yeah, do I have the job or, because I'm going to grad school. Like, I really called the 4 letters talking about grad school. Like, and then another week went by and I called again. I was like, hey, grad school's getting closer. I just need to know if I'm hired or not. And I called them twice. And then like next week, I got a phone call. It was like, hey, yeah, you've been hired. We got some stuff to send you. We got to clarify your background, your employment history, but you've got a job. And I was like, yes. But yeah, man, like after that shot, I think out of that whole time interview, I don't know how I was so cocky, but like my shot sheet had 2 lines on it. Like
Oh man.
two. And I wrote. He saw. I think what helped me was he saw me write everything
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, and then like when I navigate, like I think I must have hit the right cursor or something, and it just went whoop and deleted everything.
Do you
It was gone.
remember like at least like one of the plays that you had to do? Like I still remember one of mine was from the Ravens Super Bowl. And mind you, this is literally fresh. And I remember he said to me, he said, well, this play, you probably know it by heart. You probably seen it a million times. Like, of course.
So the play. So I think this was a Joakim Noah Chicago Bulls Cleve. I think this was like a Bulls. It was a Bulls highlight.
Mm-hmm.
All I remember, it was a Bulls highlight, and it was Joakim Noah, and that was it. That's literally all I remember. I don't remember anything other than that.
Yeah, I just
All I
like
remember was, yeah, all I remember doing is it being a Chicago Bulls highlight. That's it.
yeah, that man, that morning, I think it was like hard to sleep the night before. Mind you, like you said, it would put you in the hotel. And shout out to my friend Alexandria. She was bowling at the time. I think the way she pronounced her name is Galipsko. We went to college together, and so I met Aaron Hilton at shout out to Aaron. Met him at
Right,
NABJ because Tracy Mack had told me, she's like, well, connect with Aaron because he went to school in Virginia. You from Baltimore. He can kind of help you get used to the climate. And he kind of helped let me know what to expect. Alex took me out
right.
to dinner the night before. She's like, look, you got the job. If you did the phone interview, that's the hard part, and
Yep.
our class was solid. We had Wes Rimpson was in there. Who was it? Mike, he's gone now, but Mike Weltman, and it was cool. That whole process it was definitely nerve-wracking, and definitely recommend I thankfully, if I've had a couple of Morgan State grads that I've been, letting them know, like, hey, you about to get this
Right.
opportunity, let me know. So when you get
I,
there, what was your first job rotation?
so when I first got there, I was VO unit and teleprompter.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I never had to do the sales part, which a lot of people told me you're so lucky. But before I get in there, I gotta ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So when your hiring group went to ESPN, when you did the in person interview,
Mm-hmm.
did you guys talk to each other?
Yeah. Yeah. We talked to each other. So I ain't gonna lie, me being older, because I was 20,
Mm-hmm.
it was fresh after my 27th birthday. I knew that my advantage was going to be that I had life experience and that I had
Right.
worked already.
Experience. Yep.
So
Yep.
I was using that to my advantage. Like, look, y'all not just getting the average fresh out of college person. I took some years off, went back to
Yep.
school. So I was like talking every time there was a question being asked, I was answering, and they was like, y'all can relax. This isn't competition. No, they was going to
That's
know
the
who
same.
I was.
Yep. That's the same thing they told us. But guess what? I remember hopping in that van at the global security office.
Mm-hmm.
Hopping in the van. It was like I think it was 4 or 5 of us. Nobody spoke to each other. Like it was like deadpan,
Yeah.
Hunger Games. We didn't say anything to anybody. Like, and they would, and I think later on they told us, yeah, we would not put you guys in direct competition, but in the back of your head, you're like, we're humans. You're like, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in competition with this person that's next to me. This is
Yeah.
what you're saying. So, and I'll never forget. That was the most silent like ride I ever took in my life. Like it was like almost like we were all sizing each other up. Like I gotta get this job. I gotta get this job, and we were just staring at each other like I'm getting this job. Like it was crazy,
So
and I'll
did y'all
never forget that.
exchange numbers afterwards?
Yeah,
Because we
so
exchanged
so
phone
what?
numbers.
So no, we did none of that. I'm telling you, it was Hunger Games. It was like I'm getting this job. I'm getting it. I'm the one. It was. You could have told us we was on like some MTV show and everybody like I'm getting this job. It was like Fifth Act. I'm getting this job. So we all get hired, like you said, because it's a group thing. They do it by group, not by person.
Mm-hmm.
So we get hired, and the first day on campus, we're like, "Hey, I remember you. I
Mm-hmm.
remember you." And then I had to break the ice. I was like, "Man, that was the most silent van ride ever, huh?" And the girl who was with us, she was like, "Yeah." She just burst out laughing. She was like, "I was just so focused on trying to get. I didn't want to talk to any of you guys. Like it was. And if you did talk to somebody, if somebody did say something, it was like one word answer. Nobody was like, "Hey, where you from?" It was like, "Yeah, no." Like we would. That's how locked in and how crazy we were, man. We were crazy to be
Well,
acting
see,
like that.
and with us, I remember because that's where I first met Cornell. He was our lunch
Okay.
buddy. I don't know. Did they give y'all a lunch ticket?
Ah, no. So I think somebody brought us. Somebody brought us. You talking about like the day of the in-person interview?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so just I think it was Jessica Maddox, I think, who brought me lunch. It was like
Okay.
they had the whole the whole lot of people was there, and she was the one who like brought us to lunch and fed
Okay,
us.
so yeah, we went. They gave us like a ticket to the cafeteria. It's the old cafeteria, and Cornell, and I forgot the other lady's name. they met us down there, and we just was able to sit down. We ate lunch in a circle and just ask questions. And then afterwards, we had to go back for like the round table discussion, and that's where I'm like trying to
Mm-hmm.
be the star. And you know, I remember I exchanged numbers with Tyler, Wes, and Mike Weltman, and somebody else.
Okay.
And maybe me and Mike didn't exchange numbers, but it was weird because I get the call and I'm like, so do I text them to see if they got the call? Because if they didn't, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kind of feel bad, you know. And both of them, and then like Tyler was like, you know, so what you think about maybe rooming? And I was like, well, you know, I got a girl. This is before me and my wife was
Right.
married.
Right.
I said, so I didn't want to, you know, room with anybody because when they came up, you know, we wanted our space. So, but yeah, that was it was definitely fun. I remember that was like my first time in Connecticut, and I always heard Connecticut was cold. That particular day, it was like 95 degrees. And I
Yeah,
remember
probably the one day out of the year we're gonna ever be that hot.
I know, right?
Connecticut weather, man. I tell you.
So you
Whew.
know, you was on VO unit and prompter. So were you prompter
Mm-hmm.
Sports Center?
Yes, I
Okay.
did. It was so VO unit. So at first it was VO unit early. Then I think it was the 3 to 6 sports center
Mm-hmm.
because you know they had the. This was back when they had the 3 hour joints.
Yeah.
So yeah, so VO unit for a few hours and prompt the show for the next 3 hours. And some producers were good about taping the show.
Mm-hmm.
Other producers will do it live, and
So
we'll keep doing it.
so when you said about taping the show, I just want to because you know, it's a lot of sports fans that, you know, a lot of
Hmm.
people want to go to ESPN. Let them understand what that exactly means.
Okay, so a lot of people want to work in sports. So first off, sports, you got to be passionate about it because if you're not, you might like if you go to work at ESPN and you're just like because we've had a couple people like that. If you go to work there and you're just like oh just look at it like a regular job and you don't really care about like the Twitter of the sports world, Instagram, all that stuff, all that comes with it. And if you don't care about any of that, you're not gonna make it. Don't even try, like because your passion isn't in it.
Mm-hmm.
But working at ESPN, like you have to be. I'm gonna like. There's a lot of talented people who like talented people make it in the door. Don't ever get that mistake. Like talented people are there. Like it's not any bums. Like everybody who goes there is like good. Like so it's almost like being on an all-star team. You're working with the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
So you know when you get into a job like that, like you can't get complacent, and also you just got to keep trying to get better at something. Oh, I made a good montage. Like I got to get better. I got to get better. Like you got to keep. It's so competitive, and it's fun, but it's competitive because sometimes you're competing against yourself to like do something better than you did the last time. So it's it's a tough place to work, but it's also a fun place to work. But the amount of talented people that walk through that door and that you interact with, it's gonna lead you to make you a better person and like just the way you thought, like as a person who sits on a couch thinking, I could do sports like that. Like you got to realize, like they are who they say they are. They are the worldwide leader, and like it's they everything that you think someone does good for sports, like no, like they want to raise the bar to that, and that's constant. Like so, and that's the way you got to approach it. Like to walk through those doors, you got to be like, okay, so what can I do today differently that nobody has seen? And it's tough, but it's also fun because there's challenges that lie within yourself to see that you can, outdo yourself. So that's
And
one
when
of
you
the things I'll say about working there.
yeah, well, it's particularly though prompting, right? And you saying like
Mm-hmm.
the difficulties of when you got producers that want to do that will tape the show and
Mm-hmm.
versus like ones that will say, okay, we use this segment for the first hour. We can, you know, let's
Right.
clean do another one, you know. Can you just talk about
Right.
that part?
So with that, so like okay, so you're prompting. So this show is going to be 3 hours in length. You're going to have highlights. You're going to have on cameras. You're going to have probably maybe a phone or interview. So you're behind there following the show. whether it's taped or not, like I'm put it for you like this. So if the show is taped, a segment, you don't have to worry about that. Like that's something that you're that person. You're sitting behind the booth. You're watching the talent go over the show. You know that that segment is something that you don't have to be ready to go for. But the minute like the next thing goes and it's on camera, you better be ready at that wheel. Like you need to be ready to scroll and roll. And you would want, if you're doing a 3 hour show, you would want to tape, you would want the producer to tape as many segments as possible so you have as less to follow along with. Because there are producers like, no, we're gonna do it live. And there has been instances where I went like either playing on the phone and you miss an on camera and you got to catch up to the talent because they're like, where's my on camera? And they look at you after the show like, where were you? Because like, yeah, you might look at it like, oh, it's just teleprompter. No, that's an important job. Like, if the talent for the day is talking on camera at a doing a stand up, you are their person. Like you're guiding them for what they wrote in the script, and you got to be ready for that. So yeah, you would definitely want your show to be taped because it's 3 hours, and you got to be attentive for all three of those hours.
Did you ever remember any times during your prompting days stick out, like any groundbreaking moments in sports or maybe just any championships or anything like that?
Uh, so no on the groundbreaking part, but I will say, um, there was an instance. It was a NASCAR, incident, and I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing prompting. No, this was doing the rundown for the show. The person who was responsible for writing all the slugs, and this was one of those days where, unfortunately, the car hit a driver who was on the track, and I remember waking up to do that show, and I think we must have aired that segment. This was probably one of those 3 hour shows, and we probably did that segment for we did it every hour on the hour, so I had to watch that 3 times.
Ooh.
And yeah, that was one. And the person, and one of the drivers who was on the track called and said and accused one of the drivers of using their car as a weapon. Like we had them on the phone, and like that was one of my ground. Like I was like, whoa, like, and I think this was an early sports center too. And I was like, I gotta wake up and watch, and it just, I was like, wow, like that was the news of the day for maybe it was the news of the day, period. For like the next 2 or 3 days, it was in our cycle. We had to go over that story like multiple times, but I had to watch the video of the incident in that particular sports center 3 different times.
Oh wow. And a lot of times we have a lot of friends who work in traditional news, and
Mm-hmm.
they definitely have to deal with that. But a lot of times our paths are crossed, um, with situations like that when
Yep.
the Aaron Hernandez situation, I was at
Yep.
when he got convicted and was sent to
Oh
jail.
wow.
I was at home, but I was on social media at the time, so I had to go in
Mm-hmm.
later. So but you constantly seeing the news. What was your next in your what was in your next part of rotation after VO unit and prompting?
So after VO unit and prompting, immediately after that was uh highlight.
Oh boy.
Ugh.
Highlights for
I'm
people who don't understand. That's you are exactly so. I know before I got to ESPN, I thought as a production assistant, you're just helping
mm-hmm.
out, running cables, getting extra stuff. But I tell people now, everything you see on that television is done by a production assistant or content associate, and then associate producers. Highlights, you're watching a full game, and you have
Full
to come up with a
game.
story about it. Do you remember your first highlight?
First highlight. I think my first highlight was it was a UFC football game. It was UFC football. And I'm so upset with myself. I used to keep all the like reports you would get from your highlight. Oh man.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell people, like, for people out there who are trying to look and work for a company like that, like those highlights, and it has to be some of the best storytelling. Like looking at it, like it's some talented people that do highlights, and I'm gonna admit, as far talent, highlights it was never my thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
never my thing. But
Likewise.
it's one of those things where you like you said, you're telling a story of a game, but and this is go back to the point to where I was telling people like you think you know sports until like you have to like get into this. So highlights is cut by like you said, it's cut by APs, PAs, CAs, and these are some of the most talented people because these highlights, you and I as like the guy, me, I'm gonna say the guy who sits on a couch will say, no, the story of the game is such and so. He had 24 points. That's the story. That's the highlight. Nah, dog. That guy might have 24 points. There might be a kid who made a 3/4 court shot
Mm-hmm.
at halftime. Guess what the story of that is? It's that kid making the shot. Like nobody cares about his 24 points. Like find a way to put that in there, but you're probably gonna have like at least you're probably gonna have like 3 or 4 clips talking about the kid who made a 3/4 shot or some guy in the stands who's chugging down popcorn. Like it goes everywhere, and people think, oh wait, but that's not the no, that's part of storytelling. This
Mm-hmm.
is what happens when you the person was watching that event, and this needs to be in there. Like crazy stuff, crazy. But yeah, my first highlight was a UFC football game, and I think their top receiver got injured, and I didn't put in the highlight. I was like, it
Oh.
doesn't tell the story of the game. And I remember my high pride telling me at the time, he's like, nah, he's a top guy. You got to put that in there. And I was like, and thinking about, I was like, why didn't I put that in there? Because it made sense to put in. He's a top guy. But at that time, that was my first highlight by myself. And I didn't think that was part of the story of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do highlights, like, you got to be on it and you got to be a talented people. Like Cornell was one of the best people at cutting highlights. And
Yeah.
I would tip my hat to him. I couldn't, I would have good highlights. You always had a good moment here and there, but as far as a consistent basis, it
But
wasn't
well, it was a stressful job too because, like I said, you
there. Yeah.
got to watch the game. Not only got to watch it, you have to log the game, and
Yep.
as you're logging, you have to be you're logging what's happening, but you got to keep your eyes on everything. Like you just said, that kid who made a 3/4 shot, the person in the stands with the popcorn. You have to keep your eyes on
Yep.
everything, and then it's I don't want to say thankless but it can be at times because it could be nights where you're thinking, oh man, I had a great highlight, and it was like, oh, okay. But then or you have the best game and all of a sudden breaking news happens, you have
Yep.
a top somebody if you're doing basketball, Steph Curry drops 60 points, but then on the other side LeBron James get hurt. you
Yep.
know um
Find a way to put that in. Like, huh?
yeah. And then especially if it's not your game, something else happens, did you or breaking news, God forbid somebody passes away. Now that's taking over the show. Did you have a did you do all like the big four: baseball, basketball, football, and hockey?
So I only did hockey when I had to do what I forgot the name of that shift they used to call it. Partial.
Okay.
I had to do partial highlights. But for the most part, I think when I came in, I only had to do baseball and college football, and I did basketball too, NBA basketball too. So I did just the three. I didn't do the four.
Now, did you
And
before you went in, did you a lot of times if you knew
mm-hmm,
it was gonna be on highlights, did you sometimes maybe try to guess which game you may have or maybe hope that you
all the
didn't?
time,
Yeah.
all the time. And if it was baseball season, you pray to God that it wasn't a Seattle game. Like you didn't want the Mariners. Like you didn't want that. Like, wait, I gotta come in at 6. What time my game is? 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Really? And then you would go through, and sometimes you would go through that and do the highlight, and it's like 3, 4 in the morning, and like, nah, it's probably gonna be in the Z's. It won't make the show. Well, thanks. Well,
that
thanks.
happened.
Thanks.
That
Thanks.
happened in my first hockey highlight. It was a tight game. Team won. And I remember shout out to Marcus Patton. I went to him and said, "Yeah, okay, so is this gonna make it?" And we looked, it was in the Z's, and I was like, "Man, there's been times where you think, man, I had a good one, and then you
Yeah,
know, hockey and baseball, a lot of times those games gonna get bumped. Did you
all the time.
you have any memorable ones before we move on from the highlight section?
Memorable, memorable ones.
I know you don't have a lot of
Uh,
memories at ESPN,
yeah, I'm
obviously.
trying. I'm trying to see just a good one. What was my best one? So I think I had two. I think it
Hmm.
was two. The first one was like I think it was the the Knicks versus the Utah Jazz, and this was a game like I put shot tracker, I put distance on that thing. I had some axis on it because Melo hit like two long jumpers from beyond like half court. I think no, I think it was either it had to be yeah it was Jazz versus Knicks, and Melo hit like a bunch of long range shots to beat the buzzers, and we just did tracking and distance on all of them with access, and that was one. And then one of the ones I say I think was my best was a kid. They brought a kid in the baseball booth. It was a San Diego Padres game. So I think the pitcher had a no going. So the pitcher had a no going, and then the kid comes up to the booth to do like play by play, and like the next two at bat, ping ping, two home runs, and the kid was like, and I think the announcer said, yeah, the no hitter is gone, and the kid was like, yeah, you got to get me out of here, and I put that sound in the highlight. So we get to the edit room, to do because I had like the pitcher. This kid, this first off, like the thing about it was nobody knew who this the pitcher was. He was like a nobody. He went through 6 innings throwing the no. So I put it in, and I think like like some kind of way my footage was messing up or some. I don't know if it was the San Diego Sun or whatever it was, but my footage kept messing up for some reason. So I did all that. I put the transition in. I did the side with the kid, and never saw the light of day. Never saw the light of day. I think that was my the New York Knicks one versus the Jazz made it to Sports Center. I was happy about that, but the that kid one never saw the light
Uh,
of day. But I do have it in my Vimeo.
do
I
you
think I do have
remember
that.
you remember your feeling the first time? Well, I should say, did your first highlight air on Sports Center? And if so, when your first highlight did air, do you remember that feeling or going home to watch it?
Yeah. So when my first highlight aired, I never forget. Like I was watching it and I was like, and I think more so I'll say this when I watched my highlight and I looked back, I was like, man, like you really did something. Like you got to this company and you're contributing. Like and that made me feel like I felt like amazing. Like I felt awesome. Like I knew it play for play. I was like, yeah, this is it right here. This is what and then you would watch your highlights to make sure that the anchor read it right for how you wrote it, making sure you set them up perfectly. And when you would listen to them do your run your shot your highlight down, you like, yeah, it was a great feeling to watch your work get put on Sports Center. And I think one of the things that made me feel good even before highlights, as small as it was, but working in VO unit, just
Hmm.
doing VOs, like when you first start doing stuff at that company, you're like, man, I'm putting stuff. After a while, you don't think about it because you're like, yeah, I make content, but you're contributing to assisting sports on that day. Like that's a major accomplishment because that channel, SportsCenter is on every like not now, but SportsCenter is on every TV in America. Whether somebody's watching it or not, if you go anywhere, it's on. Like it's on, and in that day you contributed something, and somebody somewhere is like, oh man, that highlight was crazy. Like they really did so and so in that game, and it just makes you feel like 10 times bigger than what you are, and it's an amazing feeling of satisfaction.
Now, we live in a world of social media. Has there ever been a time where you went on Twitter after you had a highlight and maybe seeing like some reactions, positive or negative?
Nope, that's my rule. I don't go on Twitter. I don't do B. I don't do it. I don't do it, bro. Like if I have a highlight, I know it's one of the same. If I know I got like a highlight coming, whether I did good or bad, not going on social media.
So,
And like right now, I'm a
mhm.
graphics producer, so after games, that's my one rule. Like, look, if me and the producer, he's like, hey, you should have did this better. That's fine. I will not go to watch myself get ridiculed in the public. I can't do it. That's
it
my
happened.
one rule.
It happened to me once. Warriors Kings. Now this is early days when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were just known as the Splash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
People probably thought they was going to be like the Phoenix Suns or the Utah Jazz, or those good teams, but they never really get that over the third or fourth seed. And they were
Mm-hmm.
playing the Kings, and Curry and it was Curry and Clay. They had a decent game. And mind you, this is 2014, so Mark Jackson's still the
Yeah,
coach.
yeah.
And the Kings, for whatever reason, had like a bad night. So me and the high prod decided that we was gonna focus on like the bad missed shots that the Kings were doing. And granted, it was like what 30-second highlight, so it's only three
Mm-hmm.
plays.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, this is why they lost. Boing, boing, boing. So I
Right.
was going home that night for the weekend. And I remember I'm in the car, so I was like, get on Twitter. And I saw something like ESPN, how they gonna highlight the Kings' struggles when clearly the Warriors won the game. But now, granted, had that been literally a year later, it would have been a whole different highlight
Yep.
because the
Yep.
Warriors were good. But so I did that one time, and that was the only time I had that happen.
And when you do a highlight, that's what you like. There's also a regular sports fan who watched that and like is an avid fan of that team, and that might not even be your squad that you're doing a highlight for.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the expectations that they have. They're like, why are you doing that when the Splash Brothers did such and such? And like you said, this was before they were. Mark Jackson was the person who told everybody, hey, these two dudes are bad boys.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to listen until like it was like, oh, they for real.
Yep.
And like you said, but that's my rule, B. I won't do it. I won't do it. I
So,
won't do it. Like especially because you know when it's gonna be on and you know when it's about to hit. You're like,
mm-hmm.
I'm not checking. I'm not checking social media. Not doing it. Not
So,
doing it.
talk about the times you had to work with NBA Tonight. You
Oh
being
man,
a huge basketball fan, getting to literally focus on your favorite sport. Did it make you fall in love with basketball even more? Or did it get you the nights where you're like, I don't even want to see a ball dribbling?
it made me fall in love with basketball more. And the reason why was because of the NBA talent that I could talk to. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to an Antonio Davis on a nightly basis,
Real
and
quick, the Antonio Davis story. That one game we had the championship.
oh man,
and
I gotta
this
live.
this is the game where we should have they didn't call out of bounds, and it hit the top of the rim. I mean, top of the cylinder. I mean, the goal, the square, and they
Yeah,
didn't call out of bounds, and we never got that chance to get. We could have tied the game, but I was on the bench, of course, because it's in crunch time, and AD is like, man, I'm just saying, if y'all want to win the game, man, y'all better stop the clock. Y'all should. And I'm sitting there yelling, foul, foul, foul. He's like,
right.
man, it should have been foul. But yeah, so that's my Antonio Davis story. But you said you got a chance to talk to him, and
I got a chance to talk to him, Chauncey Billups, like it's all kind of George Call, like
Bruce
and
Bowen.
Bruce Bowen, funny guy, and like
I
you said,
remember
like yeah,
somebody told him
but
that James Harden was good at defense. Like they told Bruce Bowen of all people.
don't tell Bruce that. Don't tell. And they come to defense, like he's gonna like if he don't even think it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing I like about NBA players. They're all savage. Like they're all. It doesn't matter like whether they were a role player. They all feel like hey man, I contribute on this doggone team too. So, and to piggyback off your Antonio Davis story, so the game before just to put this out here, the game before, because I asked Antonio to come out for our championship game, and it was my
Oh,
worst game ever. It was my worst game. The game before, I hit like 5 3s.
yep.
I did. I splashed like five. So when we did the championship game, and I'll never forget because I knew it. It was the next day. I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna make any shots, and I finished the championship game with 1 point, bro.
Yo, they can't see this. The
One
audience can't
point.
see this, but we looking on camera.
1 point.
I had this in the bag, this WWE Championship belt in the bag. I was
Oh
ready
man.
for us to have all the pictures flood through social media. I had brought that, I had put it in the bag. Nobody could see
Uh,
it. I
I
was,
I felt I felt so bad because I came out and he got on me too. You made me come out there, and all you was doing was hitting because everything was short. Everything
yeah,
was off the rim. It was the front of the rim, and he was like, "You made me come out there." And I said, "Great, great." He teased me about that. He was like, "You're the reason they lost." I was like, "Oh," and he was getting me, bro. He was getting me. He was like, "Yeah, you the reason they lost. You couldn't buy one." I was like, "Man, you just said you missed the game before. I hit like five of them things."
yep.
Oh man,
Oh man, but yeah, talk about who's some of your favorite talent to work with, and like whose brain you used to always pick. Who's like your go-to guy?
George Call,
Okay,
easily George Call, easily, cause George Call is a relatable guy and he's funny. Like George Call is really funny, and people don't realize that George Call is funny. And he told me one of my greatest NBA stories ever. So, and this let me know about Curry and the Warriors. So George Call says like he said this is when he found out like Steph Curry and Clay were different. I think they were playing the Nuggets in the playoffs. This was it had to be Warriors Nuggets in the playoffs or something like that. So George Carlin says where Curry dribbles to the corner, shoots the basketball, and this is before everybody started catching on to it. He shoots the basketball, turns around, looks at the Nuggets bench, and says, "Boom!" Before like he says, "Boom," and as he's saying, "Boom," the ball is splashing into the net. So I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I never forget." He turned around, he shot the ball, turned around, and said, "Boom," and the ball just went straight in the hoop, splash. And that's when he was like, that's when I found out that these dudes were going to do something different in the NBA. And when I tell people that, I was like, think about this: the fact that you're shooting a ball, you follow through already. You turn around and you telling somebody this is bucket. Like you're not even saying cash. You turn around, you go boom, and as he did it, splash, and the Nuggets were like, he said him. He said he knew they had no chance to win. When once he saw that, he was like, I can't do nothing with that.
wow. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought up, the saying George Carl's relatable. Um, I know I didn't like have a relationship with him, but I would, see
Mm-hmm.
him and he would speak. Yeah, obviously you had some talent and athletes who wouldn't speak unless you were in their circle, but he was
Yep.
one who would always speak. And and especially off this incredible documentary, Last Dance, we see
Mm-hmm.
that he's Michael Jordan put out the story about him not speaking.
Yeah.
You hear all the stuff from the Nuggets players, and obviously we don't know how he was as a coach, but to
Right.
hear how he was as a colleague, is incredible.
Yeah. He was a nice guy. We're the reason he went viral with the whole Swaggy G thing. Like we pushed that on him to like whether like to where like he would be up for anything at night. Like we were like, hey, DeMarcus Cousins did like a fake album cover one year,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were like, Carl, we were like, George, you want to do one? He's like, heck yeah, I'll do it. So he put on the shades and everything, and we nicknamed him because this was time Swaggy P was saying all kind of crazy stuff, and because that's how I made my bones in NBA Tonight. I was responsible for like I made my own segment called Mic Check,
I
where we was
remember
just
that.
where I would just use sound bites from all the funny guys either that week or that month, and we turned George Carl to Swaggy G, and that went viral. Like, and think about it, like NBA Tonight, it's a niche audience. We were on at like 2 a.m. Sometimes you get watched, sometimes you didn't, and that was just because everything was predicated. We don't do a basketball game and toss to NBA tonight. No, because we got to get sports in a roll. But we there were instances where we got our ratings, and I could thank George Call for that because I love picking his mind about basketball. And right behind him was Chauncey,
Mhm.
and Chauncey only stayed for. We knew Chauncey was going to go back. We knew Chauncey was going to go to NBA Countdown in LA. I knew he wasn't going to stay in Bristol too long. And Chauncey was another person who brain I would pick. But George Carl, very relatable, very nice guy. As a colleague, that's all I can say about it. I got nothing. Him and Antonio Davis were easily the most down to earth people, and
Mhm.
Bruce Bowen too. But Bruce is a character, so everybody knows Bruce. But Antonio Davis and George Carl are stand up guys, and Billups too. I like those guys.
Yeah. So what came after the NBA tonight? Was this around the time you moved to North Carolina
So,
or?
so after NBA tonight, because like I said, highlights was my thing in school. So after NBA tonight, I went over to the event side of things, and I
Okay.
did college football for a season. And I think I did college football, like I said, for that one season, and then you know, the wives in Connecticut don't last. And if anybody, if you went to ESPN, this is how it goes. And this is not about leaving your wife. We're saying that wives do not last in Connecticut, and the reason why, they're gonna give you about like a winter or two. They want out of there. They're like, no, this isn't it, sweetheart. This not it. This is not where I want to stay. This is not where I want to live. And wifey, I appreciate it. She was a good soldier for I think uh 2.5 winters, maybe three.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, nah, you gotta find something. So, I'm already an LSU fan, baseball, football, all that. And I was like, SEC network opened up and I was like, you know what? I said, I'll transfer down to SEC Network and do that if you don't, since you don't like Bristol, Connecticut. And we did that, and I moved. 2017 is when I moved down to Charlotte to work at the SEC Network. But yeah, the wives don't like it. They don't like Connecticut. Ain't lasting, man. They're not gonna last. The guys will tough it out for as long as possible. But the minute you move your lady up there,
Mm-hmm.
she's giving you like 2 years max, maybe three, and she's like, pack it up. This ain't it. We got to find us find us somewhere better. And that's one of the I love Connecticut, but the location is not maybe ideal for most people. But
Well,
the
and
wives don't like it.
it's different, especially when you
Yeah,
because when you go up there, like my first 6 months, I was living by myself, so I was
right.
able to go out, hang out with people, but then and my wife was good about, oh, go hang with your friends, but you can't go to every party, you can't go to
Yep,
every
yep.
event,
And that's only
even
fair. And that's only fair to her. Yeah,
it's only fair, yep. And even with us, it was, we had a child too. So it wasn't like I could, where, you had some of them who would bring their wives and like, and you would see them just as much, it wasn't always the case. Like I said, we had, by then, my daughter came January 31st, 2015.
hmm
So it was like, okay, now I really, for the most part, was just in the house, and
right.
it was cool, but like you said, it's it's definitely time to move on. Now, talk about the transition now. I mean, you a huge college sports fan, but now not
hmm
working with the pro sports anymore. Like,
Yeah.
was it something you missed?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um. And this is not to cast any bad things on anybody. So with college sports, it's not professional. Like that's the first of it. It's not professional. So when you're watching an NBA melt, like because we use the melt after the game for footage to either log or make a montage with. When you're doing that with the NBA, those are some of the best camera people. Those are they know how to. So when this ball goes in, Russell Westbrook normally gives me some kind of reaction if he hits a three like that. So
Mm-hmm.
they follow ball and they get to player quick. In college, it's not like that. In college, they might make a shot, they pan to the fan. and you're like, wait, no, that was a great reaction after that shot. Who has it? Nobody has it because college is different from it's about the players in NBA. It's about the fans in college,
Oh,
and
I
that
never
and
knew
that's
that.
and that's one of the differences. And I had to get used to that because if you think about it, when you're when you're doing college, think about like how we talking about college football coming back now. People don't even want to talk about it because of what? Because fans and the atmosphere that college creates. So you would be doing a melt, and you know this kid is probably gonna give you the best reaction you got, but the camera person's their innate like their instinct is to what did the crowd do when he made that shot? And I'm coming from NBA where I'm like, no, I need to hear him do. I need to see him host of the threes or three to the head or anything else. That's his reaction. But in college, you have to do the the atmosphere, the fans, the people. So I had to get used to that because I would go through a mess. I'm like, why didn't you follow the player? And they're like, nah, dude, we follow fans. Like, you're not worrying about that kid, even though even the top kid in the nation. Sometimes they just don't follow, and I had to get used to it. Now it would make me so upset, but it took me like maybe some months to just sit down and think to myself, and I was like, that's why they do that. So you have to deal with that. So the camera work is not as good as pros, but those are professionals. Those guys been doing it for years. So I can't compare somebody who's been doing NBA for 20 years to somebody who's been doing the college game. And some of those, and the uniqueness of the SEC network is some of those the camera work comes from students at that university. So I can't compare somebody who's been working camera work for 20 years in the NBA to a college kid because if I put myself in those shoes, I probably would have some bad shots as well. So I had to get used to that, and it took a while. I had to get used to that, and that made me miss professional sports more than anything.
Okay. Wow. I definitely you just like I said, I mean, I've obviously been on the couch side of things now.
Right.
And I've done like talent work for local stations down here, but it's a totally different ball game from being
Mm-hmm.
a multimedia journalist in sports versus, getting all that footage from pulling it from all different directions. Um,
Yep.
Looking back before we get out of here, uh
Mm-hmm.
looking back at your career, and especially in sports, a lot of times the hardest thing to do is to have to either go in or cut a highlight after a devastating loss from our teams. For me,
Ooh.
everybody knows, like, if I could give back the 5 Laker championships I seen and the 2 Ravens Super Bowls, I would do it just for one Orioles World Series. And I know I had to cut the highlights of for Mike and Mike when the Orioles lost
Mm-hmm.
in 2013, 2014.
Oh man.
Did you have any of those moments, whether it was with the Pelicans, LSU football, or with the Saints?
Yeah. So I'll say this. I don't know if the High Prides knew I was a Saints fan. I never had to cut the Saints highlight. I
Okay.
never got I never got the chance to cut a Saints football highlight. Um Now there was a playoff game that was on when I was doing the highlight. I think it was Eagles. Yes, it was Eagles Saints. And I did that highlight. I didn't do the highlight, but that game was on and I had a 10 o'clock Kings game that I knew wasn't going to make the show. Like I knew that it wasn't gonna make the show. So I had to sit there. Thankfully we won by a field goal, but I never got a chance to do that. They must have either knew to give me the day off or they knew to do something after the game. But I never had to do that. I'm glad I didn't have to do that. Never had to do that.
Okay. Yes, with Mike, man, shout out to my former producer, Seth Horowitz. He used to, it was when me and Wes, and then later it was me and Nate Schiller. We was on the same, like, it was just the two of us. So he would do the rundown, and every
Mhm.
day, especially I did the whole football season, 2014 football season. So every day I always got the Ravens And at the time, I used to like the Cowboys just as much, and so I would get all their games. Nate would always get the Jets games, and then he was, the other games he would, figure it out. So baseball season is same thing. I got like the Orioles, and this is when the Orioles magic is floating. Everybody just knew he was winning it. Man, that Monday, no, they lost.
That's the worst
they got
day,
swept.
brother.
Yeah. And they got swept in the series. So I think it was that Wednesday or Thursday in the ALCS. I'm sitting there like, man, I don't feel like doing this.
Now you don't feel like going to work.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to work. You don't want to go. You do not want to go to work after you watch your team take an L. Like, I could only imagine how if I worked at ESPN in 2011 or 2010, I should say, when Beast Mode happened, and I had to cut that highlight. You think I would want to come to work the next day? You think I would want to cut that highlight? No, I'm out of there. Get me out of here. I would be like, hey, can I get the day off? Or let somebody else come chat. Like, let somebody finish this highlight. I can't do it. I'm upset. I'm mad. We lost. It was a beast mode touchdown. No, I couldn't imagine coming to work the next day and having to cut footage for it. I'm calling it sick, dog.
And I had, even when I was in social media, I would do, and I was in social media primarily during it was the year the Warriors Cavs won when the Warriors beat them. And then that same summer, so the Mariners threw a no-hitter against the Orioles. And it was with social media, if there was a big game or something happened, we had to do a cool graphic on Photoshop. And ooh, you talking about having to write that, and then it's like, come on now. Or even when granted, I'm not a Wizards fan, I'm a Wizards supporter, but it was magic watching them try to beat the Hawks that year to get to the conference finals. And it was the game, not the one where Paul Pierce shot counted, but the next one, I think it was game 6 when it didn't count, because I think his hand was still on the ball. And I had the graphic ready, but then you got the graphic ready for the win, but then you got the tweet ready, So that's the thing, man. I tell people all the time, like, working in sports is fun, but there's gonna be some times where you just don't want to go to work. You don't want to. And everybody's, for the most part, all the production assistants are sports fans. Editors can be sports fans or just great great editors, so they may not be sports fans. So you're gonna have your rivals, people coming in there talking trash. I'm pretty sure you run into a lot of Falcons fans. So that's the thing, man.
I put it to it like this: it's all fun and games until it's your squad.
Yep.
Simple as that. It's all fun and games until it's your squad. And when it is, you see and that's what I love about it, because you see our fandom come out. Whether we win or lose, it's like, especially if you lose, and if it's like one of the most iconic, because you know we got to beef it up, we got to pump it up, and I got to tell you, it's all fun and games until it's your squad that you got to do.
Or you got to watch it constantly, over and over again.
Yep.
Have you ever been in the you ever been to screening during any like the NBA draft or the NFL draft?
I would always, so in screening, no. The closest I got to being in screening doing something like that was probably NBA lottery. I never was there during draft. I don't know how that worked out. I never was there for draft.
So one time, I think it was one night. It was during the draft where Embiid and them got drafted. Okay. I was me and I can't think of her last name. Me and Megan were both available PAs. This is like the time we first met. Her and I were both available PAs. So when you're available PA, I can say this now. You used to avoid everybody because you ain't want nobody stick you with backlog. So you was just like, oh, this is a free night. All I gotta do is work my 8 and I'm out of here. And then if you were smart, sometimes if you say you were scheduled to get off at 1, you might get leave at 11:30 because ain't nobody gonna ask you to do nothing.
Exactly.
And
I'm coming to you like right when you already about to finish your law. Hey man, you need help.
Yeah.
Knowing I know you don't need help. You need some help, brother. Nah, man, I'm good. So I'm going to the high price. Yo, he good. Can I go home?
Yep.
All right, cool, I'm gone.
And and I remember just being in that room. It was like the war room, because you would hear so many people reacting
Yep.
to draft picks. The night Johnny Manziel, when everybody just knew the Cowboys was going to pick him, and they grabbed Zach Martin instead. All you could hear was a bunch of oohs and ahs. And then when he finally got picked up by the Browns, everybody's like, "Oh, okay," So
That's crazy. That's crazy that all them years I've been there for like going next 2 months from now to be officially 7 years. I never was there for a draft, like any draft. That's crazy. Any draft, I never was there. I never got to experience that.
Oh man,
That's
yeah, it was
crazy.
it was fun, man. I always tell people I had there was definitely 2 great years in my life for me. And obviously, me and meeting you and a lot of great people. It's just opportunity, meeting people lifelong friendships
Yeah,
with.
man.
um when you so the title of the show is called Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling. When you look
Hmm.
back over those 7 years, what was the moment? What was your glass breaking moment, the moment you knew that I'm pretty good at this, and this is what I was born to do this?
So the moment, and there's a lot of things that happen when you're working there, and there's a lot of self doubt when you do certain things and it's not received well, and you
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself like, am I good enough? But I think the one piece of project that I did was in 2014 to 2015, and you and I were texting about it the other day. It was the Spurs montage. The Spurs Big Three montage was the def when I was like, all right, I'm here. Cause think about it, we this at ESPN. There's people who come from Duke, Syracuse, Arizona, big schools, and I'm this kid from New Orleans, Northwestern State University of Louisiana. So I got my doubts. Like, am I really good enough? So I remember cutting that, and I cut that montage for. It was just for NBA tonight. It was for
Mm-hmm.
NBA Countdown at first. So it's
Okay.
for NBA Countdown. It was for the finals, and I worked on this thing religiously. I had to make it my best. And the first piece of encouragement came from the resident Spurs fan,
Marcus.
Garcia. Yep, Marcus Garcia. And he was like, man, and you know how he is for the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I love that montage. He was like, he said, not only do I love your selection, it's the music that you chose. It was the jazz thing. He was like, if you'd have put any other music other than something slow like that, I wouldn't have been a fan of it because that's not how they play. That's not how the big three plays. And that was when I knew if I can impress him, I can impress everybody. And the moment was when it ran on NBA Countdown, and then it ran through our finals coverage. It wasn't supposed to go on the finals coverage. It was just supposed to
Oh.
go on the show before finals. And again, like that was 2014. I'm just a year into this place. This is my first full year there,
Mm-hmm.
and to see that run on NBA Finals coverage, I was like, man. I said you could pat one. I said pat me on the back. That's one that's a moment in time that I'm never gonna forget because I'm coming from a small school, not thinking I can do this with all these kids with these huge universities and back-ends and multiple internships, and I'm like, you all right? And I was like, all right, you could do this. And that was the moment I was like, yeah, I'm here. I'm for here because nobody else, everybody thought the same thing. It was like that fits who they are, and that was my moment when I was like, that was like my I arrived moment. So
I
that was
remember
it.
that, man, because I remember you was working on it, and I just walked past, and like always, you my boys. I'm like, yo, what's good? And you was like, you would have your headphones on. I was like, yo, what
Hmm.
you working on? You was like, yo, I'm working on this. Check this out. So you was like, you gave me the headphones, told me put them on and listen, and it was just something. And like I said, obviously, it's so memorable. 5 years later, that's why I hit you up about. I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder he still. What happened was I was telling my wife about it, and I was talking about
Hmm.
your podcast. And I was like, yeah, I said, I remember he did this one month. I said, let me ask him, he still got it. It was just the way you it sold the story of the San Antonio Spurs, because it was like, if you think about Manu, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan, and mind you, folks, this is the time Kawhi won MVP, but that Spurs championship, the game plan was never to run through him. He just shut down LeBron
Mm-hmm.
and took all
Yep.
the opportunities. So this is before he was even a superstar. But it was just the way you put it together. It just felt like that's the type of music they would be listening to before a game, you know.
Yep.
But moving forward, you got a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So this is by the time this is gonna drop in the middle of June. So we'll have a few episodes. But talk to the people, let them know about your podcast, because I'm pretty sure they enjoyed this conversation, and I definitely want them to be able to connect with you and learn just more about it. But tell them what they can expect.
Yeah. So, my podcast, I did episode 0, the intro. This week I'm going to do episode 1. So it's the Everything Real podcast. That's the name, Everything Real. So it's not just sports. It's also my other interests in life, like movies. I'm a big movie guy and tech. So you can expect things like that. But I also want to show people the journey that I've taken to get where I am. Like there are things about, in episode 1, I think I'm going to talk about a lot of things about myself as a person and also the journey that it took for me to get here. So that episode is going to be like very detailed, but that's what they can expect from me with this podcast. I'm trying to see if I get my wife on there because she's a YouTuber, so maybe do some marriage things just to get, because I know females just don't want to hear sports, so maybe they probably want to hear a marriage thing, or we probably might do a battle of the sexes uh, series or something on the podcast. But that's what they can expect from this podcast. It's everything real. It's everything about me and everything that I like, all my interests. So that's why I went with everything real. So um, my social media at D Smothers at DeSmothers, and that's for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, DeVry Smothers. So everything real. Every episode I'm going to post it on either Instagram. I'm going to post it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and you can find it on Spotify, Anchor.fm, all those places. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to hear a lot of your takes. So one of the things that I liked in the intro episode was you said like, look, you'll be the movie watcher for everybody. Said because there's times you hear about stuff and then you're like,
Yep.
I don't know if I want to see it yet. So, giving people that opportunity to know that they can trust somebody as a credible source, because you said you watch a lot of movies. There's a lot of times you
A
come
lot.
home from sports and you just like, man, I don't want to look at a ball, nothing, and
Yep.
that's the perfect time.
You don't. You like some. You just need it. You just, it's a mental break from the norm. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure like a person who worked in movies wouldn't want to come home and watch movies. But there are things I watch on Netflix. I'm like, man, that was good. I'm pretty sure you can watch that. Like me and the wife just watched Lovebird. Um, and like the thing about I think it's weird now because since we're in quarantine, I think it would work better. Like when people are like, what should I watch on Netflix? Now people just putting on anything. But Lovebirds is funny. It wasn't bad. There was some real funny moments in there. That's something I can say. If you got like an hour to waste, an hour and a half to waste, go ahead and watch that. Just sit down, chill, relax. That's one of those movies like Lovebirds is really good. It's Issa Rae in there, and she's a good actress. And I think I would suggest that if you and the wife want to watch it, just go ahead and check that out because it's really funny. It's funny.
Okay, yeah, we definitely going to check it out. A lot of times she'll be on her phone and then she was like, oh, y'all watch this? I'm like, because it's something like watching the TV. She'll just be on her phone watching cable, and then next thing you know, she'll be like,
The
yeah, I
funny,
watched it already.
the funny thing is the Netflix infidelity in in marriages is so funny. Like you feel betrayed and backstabbed. Like you did what? You watched that without me? You started a series without me? It's so
Uh-huh.
funny. It's so funny. You did what? I was wanting to watch that with you. It's really funny and really enjoyable. I love like the Netflix infidelity is hilarious,
I
man.
never
It's
thought
really
about it
funny.
like that. That's the best way to explain it.
That's what it is.
But all right, bro, I'm gonna let you go, man. This is a great conversation, great for me to go back down memory lane, but also learn a
Yes.
lot just about your journey and what's coming. I'm very excited about the podcast. Because I know like a lot of times we had lots of millions of conversations, for folks don't know, like DeVry helped me when my wife was pregnant. I was like, we need a new mattress, and DeVry was right there to help me move that mattress. And so a lot of times we won't get to talk as much, but being able to hear
Right.
your thoughts, on with the podcast, that's what I'm excited to look forward to. So definitely, y'all make sure y'all check that out, because I promise you, I guarantee you, because he's putting it together, is going to be great. The way the intro for his anchor is not like anybody else's. And I was like, yeah, that's a DeVry Smothers production. So
yeah, I gotta be different.
He's one of the best in the world, indeed. So I'm definitely, you don't be at ESPN under the 4-letter network for 7 years if you ain't good. And it's just that simple.
I appreciate that, brother. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no
Thanks
problem,
for having
bro.
me. Thanks for having me on, bro. I'm happy you gave me all the advice you gave me regarding the just starting the podcast, because you was influential in that too. Like, hey man, do this, do that, and the third. And I appreciate your advice on that, man. I really do. And I appreciate, because a lot of times in life, you can always say, I'll talk to him later, or nah, I'm busy. And I appreciate you. I don't know what you were in the middle of doing, but I really do appreciate you taking out those 5-10 minutes just to text me and like, hey, here's what you need. Here's what you need to do to get started. These are my suggestions. I really do appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that.
No problem, bro. Like you always said, I remember one thing you said: you never turned down an opportunity to help somebody, and those words always stuck in my brain when we was moving that mattress, and
Yeah,
so it's
man.
the same way.
I get it from my pops, man. I really do. I get it. He would give you the shirt off his back, and I think shout out to him because it's his birthday. But not to cut you off, I definitely get that from him. And if a friend asks me for help and I know I can help, I'm not gonna shun you away ever. That's just not how I roll. If I say you my friend, you my dog.
For life, man.
That's just how it go. That's how it go. That's how it goes.
For life, man. When I hopefully I can, once all this is over, if I'm down in Charlotte, I'll definitely come holler at you, bro.
Come holler at me, man. We go to Bojangles, man.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that episode as DeVry and I went back down memory lane, and make sure you check out his podcast. I promise you will enjoy it. It's one of my favorite podcasts already. Coming up next week, I stay in New Orleans. I bring on a gentleman who I met at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention, and that is Norman Locke. Norman is a radio personality for the ESPN affiliate station down in southern Louisiana. So we talk about his career, as well as how he was first a biology major and now he's on the radio. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe to Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Make sure you tell a friend about the show. Make sure you share it with people who need some inspiration. This is the place to be. Till the next time, folks, make sure you don't let nobody put up a ceiling that you can't break through. Brian Waters signing off. This podcast was recorded and edited by B Waters Productions. The music by Hypno Beats. Make sure you follow him at Hypno_Beats with a Z on Instagram.